Hi, I'm Ross Callaghan and I'm about to start on a new ship project. This is Artesania Latina's USS Constellation, one of their more challenging kits. I'm looking forward to it very much. I'll tell you a little bit about the Constellation itself. It was commissioned in 1798 by George Washington and was a 36-gun frigate. It was distinguished as being the first United States ship to go to war and the first ship to engage an enemy and defeat an enemy. So pretty much effectively then the first American warship. Nickname was Yankee Racehorse. She was 164 feet long, 50 metres, had 322 people on board. Travelled right around the world, engaged in war with France, went to China, South America, Pacific, spent quite a bit of time in the Mediterranean, and then when got damaged had to go back to America, get fixed, rebuilt and so on. Finally it was rebuilt in 1854 as a new version of the US Constellation, and that version is still available for people to visit in Baltimore today. So I'll show you major steps along the way as I build the kit, and then from time to time give you some comments of things I've learned along the way. Well, it's 3 months since I started and now the hull is complete. Now I'm very pleased with how it's come out. Quite complicated to do, quite challenging at times, but I worked through systematically and everything is now complete. I reckon it looks really nice, and I thought it might be helpful if I explain to you some of the things that I learnt along the way. First of all, in terms of glues, I used wood glue for building the main part of the hull, and then I used Sally's Quick Grip as my main glue, pretty well all for everything after that. I tried other kinds of glue, but I found this one was ideal. It doesn't smell and it grips quickly and it makes a nice clean job. In terms of tools, I had some tools which I found absolutely invaluable: a metal ruler and a pair of tweezers and a very fine needle. I found that there was lots of repetitive work involved in the ship, and so I was making many things. For example, the ladders here. You have to make about 15 ladders, and so using fine tools like this, I was able to make them in a line, one after the other, to get them all made. Same with the cannons here. Very complicated little things to make, and yet with tools like this I was able to make them pretty well, I reckon. And then in terms of the help that they supply, they give you an instruction booklet which is very, very sparse. For example, when it comes to making the masts, it says construct the masts. So it's not very detailed, and that's because they give you this book, which is a series of photographs, and the photographs show you what to do for each stage. I found them pretty good. You have to use common sense a lot of the time along the way. Associated with that are detailed plans and also a photograph of the hull, and there's also a pretty wonderful photograph to scale of the whole ship as well. So that's what they provide to help you with the job. Some of the things I learnt was they said once you finish the hull like this, paint it or varnish it. Now I don't think that's wise at all. I painted it before I put anything on. So, for example, this white around here, I painted it, I got that constructed, then I painted it, and then I started putting all these fine things on it. Similarly, in terms of the colour, I used white acrylic for the white, and for all the timber stuff they say varnish it. Well, I didn't varnish it, I used a mahogany stain, and I found that very, very helpful because some of the walnut that they provide is all different colours, and when you use this stain it makes it all come to the same colour, and it also helps in cleaning up glue. So I found the mahogany stain extremely useful. So I'm pretty pleased with how it's all turned out. The Constellation is, I reckon, looking pretty good, and the next phase is to create all the masts and the rigging, and then to actually rig out the boat, and so that's going to be a challenge as well. Well, it's now about 2.5 months since the hull of the Constellation was finished, and now all the fixed rigging is finally created and in place. There's been a lot of fine work involved. First of all, I created the bowsprit here, the foremast, the mainmast and the mizzen mast. That was created by building each of them over the plans, and then there was lots of fine work involved in putting the blocks on for the various pieces of tackle that will be used to control the masts later on. After that, I had to put the rigging on. First of all, the stays that held the masts forward, pulled forward, the forestays, and they're balanced by stays that pull backwards, the back stays. So that means that none of the masts move very much in a forward or backward direction. They're pretty stable. Similarly, for the bowsprit there are stays that pull it this way and pull it that way, so that they're held in place. For sideways movement, there are the shrouds, and they come up to here and to here and to here for each of the masts. And they are strengthened by the ratlines here, which the sailors use to climb up the shrouds so that they can service the various sails. I use my own system for creating the ratlines here, and I think they've come out really nice. And so that means that each of the 3 masts and the bowsprit are held in place by ropes in opposite directions, forward and back and sideways, so they're held in place securely. The final stage in doing the fixed rigging was to paint it all. I painted it in raw umber over the top of the ropes that had been supplied, and I think it makes the rigging really look quite authentic now. It's all a colour and a texture that looks just like the original ropes that were used in the Constellation. So that's been an enjoyable but a very finicky process, creating much of this, a lot of fine work, hard on the eyes, but it's come out really nice. And the next job is to create the spars and the sails, and then to attach the sails to the spars, and then create the running rigging with all the sails in place. Next, it's making all the different spars. Some quite tricky work involved here to shape the spar and then put all of its different attachments on. Then I used the patterns here to create the sails, making a pattern first, and then my wife sewed them all up, and each one then links to its particular spar. I really enjoyed doing the rigging and the sails for the Constellation. This stage I've got the foresails on the foremast there, and the jibs and the spitsail coming off the bowsprit. The plans were pretty good, and it meant that I was reasonably easily able to find where each of the lines goes. And it was really fascinating also to learn how each line works and how each sail works and how it all works together as a system, so that each sail can be controlled by the sailors. There's a lot of very fine work involved, but it's just terrific to get it all coming together so that it all looked tidy, and so that each of the lines was in its correct place and working the sails properly. I also tried to make it all look tidy, so you can see there all of the lines have been tidily stowed against the pins. Well, just over 6 months after I started, the US Constellation is finished. And I have to say it's been a real pleasure making this ship. It's been challenging, but I think now we've made a model of really high quality. Very proud of it. The final stage, having got the jibs and the foresail on, was to get the four sails on the main mast and the mizzen mast, and then the spanker sail on. And then there was lots and lots of tidying up after that. Putting on the little dinghy at the back, making sure that all of the lines were tidy, and overall just making sure that everything was complete and finished. It was a challenge, but it was a pleasure all the way, and I hope that by seeing how I've done the US Constellation might encourage you to have a go at making a model like this too. A lot of it's common sense, I reckon. The instructions are clear enough, adequate really, but with a bit of common sense you can work your way through and produce a model that is of really high quality like this. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. It's been a pleasure making this ship, and it's also been a pleasure telling you about it.